Well, good morning, everyone. I have three quotes that I'm working with this morning, one from the Dalai Lama, one from Christina Feldman, one from Sylvia Borstein. And all morning I've been wrestling with what order to present them. So I think I'm going to go backwards from the bottom of my piece of paper and see what that creates. And part of it is because what's at the bottom is the quote from the Dalai Lama, which is simply the phrase, "My religion is kindness. My religion is kindness." The kindness that the Dalai Lama is talking about is, in essence, a place to dwell, an abiding, um, like a fish in the ocean, breathing in the ocean, breathing out the ocean, like a human being in the atmosphere, breathing in the atmosphere, breathing out the atmosphere. To recognize that, like the ocean, like the atmosphere, kindness is everywhere. It's boundless and immeasurable, omnipresent. What does it mean for the Dalai Lama to make kindness his religion? It has to do with his actions in the world. What he thinks about, I'll say, is marinated in kindness. The emotions he feels are experienced with kindness. The words he says, the actions he does in the world are kind. That takes a lot of work. There are pretty much an infinite number of experiences that arise for us, one after the other, every day of our lives. And those experiences may be unpleasant, or may be pleasant, or may just be boring. We traditionally, naturally, have been exposed to other people doing this as we grew up, and therefore we saw that as the model, that we react to the unpleasant with anger or with fear or with distaste or hatred. Whatever is unpleasant, we're aversive. We don't like it. We don't want it. This is what we do, we human beings, maybe all beings. When something unpleasant arises, we feel aversion. At that moment, if your practice, if your religion is kindness, then you bring kindness to that experience. You're able to say, oh, well, this is unpleasant. No wonder I'm aversive. you know. Good to know the system is working. And I better be on guard and make sure that what I think about this unpleasant experience, what I say about this unpleasant experience, what I do about this unpleasant experience is founded in kindness. I'm not going to consent to hatred or anger in the face of the unpleasant, in the face of things that I don't want to see happening. There are lots of things I don't want to see happening. Many people during my life have told me that they feel like anger motivates them, gets them to do stuff. Anger hurts you. It physically hurts you. I'm not sure how hurting yourself is helping to deal with people doing things that are cruel and harmful. I think it's really important to follow this simple statement that the Dalai Lama is making, to make your life kindness, especially here in your heart, in your body. I often talk to people who are who physically feel, emotionally feel, mentally feel terrible because of events going on in the world or in their family or in and when I encounter this, I am reminded, or I remind myself, I don't know, I think something reminds me of this importance of kindness. Kindness is not just patting someone on the head and giving them a treat or helping carry the groceries to their car. Kindness is where one can live, seeing everything through the lens of caring, of respect, of holding everything that occurs with kindness, and then seeing what to do. So this is the quote from Sylvia. I've read this before. The practice of mindfulness is the practice of knowing what's happening in the moment, externally and within oneself. Right? The practice of mindfulness is the practice of knowing what's happening in the moment, externally and within oneself. Without mindfulness, without knowing, without being conscious of, all decisions get made habitually. There are no decisions being made intentionally. Because how could you make a decision you don't even know what's happening? You know, you hear someone say something, and your response is aversion. You don't like what they said. You wish that people saying such things don't exist. And you're watching, that's what came externally. You see that. And internally wishing that it didn't exist. And it does exist, so anger arises. And that person saying it is intentionally doing that. Hatred arises. Where does it arise? In here. You're not sending a hatred arrow to the person who said that thing that you were so upset by. It's you that's full of hatred. You that's full of anger. What are you doing hurting yourself? Don't do that. Treat yourself kindly. So Sylvia says in her quote that when there is the moment of knowing what's happening, there is also knowing what the state of mind that is accompanying what's happening. What did you bring to this moment from what was going on? Have you been having a tough time lately and you're kind of irritable and cranky? Well, perhaps the irritability and crankiness that you're bringing to the moment when you heard the person say that disagreeable thing is truly exacerbating your reaction. If that's the case, then not only is it important in the practice of mindfulness to know what's happening in the moment, but also it's important to know what in the moment is the state of mind that you're bringing with you to the encounter with the person saying. After all, perhaps if you were in a joyful moment, if things have been going really well, if you just recently, moments before were talking to someone and learning about some wonderful stuff that just really buoyed you, and then you heard the person say the unpleasant thing, you might have a reaction of aversion, but you might not even spend much time or any time really elaborating on what they said. You might find yourself uninterested. Knowing the state of mind that's present when a momentary experience occurs is a strong indication that who you are, this sense of self that we have, this sense of this is me, all right, is dependent on moods and mind states, is dependent on what's been happening recently, or maybe what happened long ago. Knowing the state of mind is also knowing how the state of mind keeps changing. Suppose you had a moment where, you've had a hard day and you're ready to be done. You're finishing up some stuff. You're ready to head home and just be done. And you run into a friend on your way to get in your car. And you're like, oh my God, I can't No, I just want to get in my car and go home. I do not want to have another encounter, no matter how much I like this person. And you say hello, and then you look and you see the person looks devastated. And you say, "What's going on?" And the person tells you this, tragedy that's happening for them. And in an instant, the whole sense of being depleted, of needing to get home, might well disappear. You might say, "Oh my God," and say, "Let's sit down, tell me, talk, I'll be with you." And the whole sense of needing privacy and to go home is gone. Which one is the authentic you? The answer to that question is the authentic you is the you that is present each moment. And there may be no particular connection between one moment and the next. You might be busy in your mind planning something, and and you go outside to go do something, and when you walk outside, there's this huge flock of birds, beautiful birds, singing and winging from tree to tree. And all of a sudden, you're just caught up in awe. Which is the authentic self? The busy one? The one caught up in awe? The authentic self is the one that arises in the moment. Christina Feldman says, listening inwardly, we see that not only our bodies and minds are processes, so too is our sense of self. There is no central controller, no command center, no edifice that remains unchanging. Identification and clinging have the effect of turning processes into states and definitions, turning verbs into nouns. Releasing this tendency to cling and identify with the changing processes and events of our bodies, hearts, and minds, we liberate ourselves to be the fluid, changing, responsive human beings we have the potential to be. I'll read that again. Listening inwardly, we see that not only our bodies and minds are processes, so too is our sense of self. There is no central controller, no command center, no edifice that remains unchanging. Identification and clinging have the effect of turning processes into states and definitions, turning verbs into nouns. Releasing the tendency to cling and identify with changing processes and events of our bodies, hearts, and minds, we liberate ourselves to be the fluid, changing, responsive human beings we have the potential to be. So in each moment, the mind state we have brought with us and that is present to the encounter with another person, with a sunset, with work to be done, whatever the mood and mind state we have that accompanies what's occurring, we need to know. We need to be mindful of in order to be able to listen inwardly and to see the processes that create the sense of self. Sylvia goes on to say that the practice of mindfulness is also knowing the feeling tone that accompanies what happens. The feeling tone. Someone is saying something that you totally think needs to not be said that way. The feeling tone is the aversion that arises. Someone says something that you totally think is yes, and a pleasant feeling tone arises. You feel supported, understood, connected. In each moment of our lives is the present and the past and the future. They all are together in this moment. The past is the mind state that you bring with you. It's not like you're physically carrying it from the past into this moment. It's that all that has come before has textured and flavored this moment in a particular way, so that this moment is lived in this manner as opposed to in that manner. This is what makes each of us unique, readily identifiable as others, and we don't even need the names. Each time we see each other, we're experiencing in this moment the result of all that has come before. You are an artwork, a choreographed dance. You are an ecosystem. You are the result of all that has come before. In this moment. So the past, in such a way, is in this moment. It's not really the past as we think of it. It's not, oh, this happened before. It's happening now, in this particular way. Knowing the state of mind that's accompanying what's happening in the moment is part of the practice of mindfulness. And the future is in this moment, because in this moment, in response to what's happening, dependent on the state of mind brought into what's happening, there is a result, there is feeling. Without feeling, none of the familiar things develop. None of what we see as life, as existence, as this world, develop without the absolute central role of feeling. Because all of our thoughts, all that we say, all that we do, the state of the way the body changes is dependent on feeling. We do completely different things when the feeling is unpleasant than when the feeling is pleasant. or when the feeling is neither pleasant or unpleasant, it's just not very stimulating. We move toward the pleasant, away from the unpleasant. We search for something more stimulating when the current experience is not stimulating. The future is dependent on feeling. Who we become is dependent on feeling. Oh, but more importantly, dependent on mindfulness of feeling, on knowing what's happening feeling-wise in this very moment, and seeing the craving that arises. If it's pleasant, we crave it to continue, to expand, to soak into our lives. If it's unpleasant, we crave it to no longer exist, to not be part of our lives in any way. And then we act. And then we act. How do we act from kindness, and only from kindness? That requires, quote, releasing the tendency to cling and identify with the changing process and events of our bodies, hearts, and mind. Releasing the tendency to cling and identify with the changing processes and events of our bodies, hearts, and minds. Releasing. Releasing. Releasing, could be a synonym for letting go, for freeing ourselves from grasping. These are all good phrases. But I want to suggest that releasing is simply turning to something else. In this case, turning to kindness. You're sitting, you're meditating, a thought arises. It's a difficult thought. It's unpleasant. You would wish it would go away. It doesn't go away. In fact, it has an energy to try to elaborate itself. So you get caught in this idea of, well, if I can figure out what this unpleasant, thought process is all about, then I can get rid of it. Not knowing that the more you think about it, the stickier it becomes. The more you try to solve it, the more complex and integrated into the experiences that are occurring moment after moment as the process of figuring out continues. Releasing, letting that go. A difficult thought arises while you're meditating. Your awareness is centered in kindness, abides in kindness. The difficult thought arises, and you say, "Oh, hello, sweetie. I'm not going to be playing with you, but you have my affection and my love. May your path be a pleasant one." And then you turn your attention, all right, back to the breath. and you breathe in the joy of the nourishment of your body, of your heart, of your mind, freely given by the atmosphere, into your body, nourishment. The very source of nourishment. You live in this ocean of nourishment. The earth is so generous, and we abide in that generosity. We settle into that. We choose the process that creates the sense of self. We recognize that that thought that came up while we were meditating is not me. It's simply a thought, just as there are simply sounds or sights or smells or tastes. It's just a thought. Don't turn it into something. Simply love its experience. Love that you're a thinking being. Thinking beings have thoughts. Hearing beings have sounds. Seeing beings have sights. Is this not to be celebrated? Is this not to sit in a place of love and delight? To abide in kindness to everything that arises in our experience is to acknowledge the generosity of sense experience. We have so many sense experiences in every moment that we can't possibly process them all. The abundance that we live in only becomes a source of sorrow when we make our religion sorrow instead of kindness. When the sorrow arises, say to it, "Oh, dear old friend, I see you are here. But Sylvia Borstein said to me, I need to know what the kindest, most compassionate, most wholesome response to the moment would be, and then make that response." It would not be kind to me to dwell in this sorrow. I would rather dwell in kindness. It's not the compassion that I want to be experiencing. To identify and elaborate the sorrow, the compassion I want to be experiencing is the, "Oh, sweet sorrow, I understand. Your presence makes sense. There is so much to understand about you, but I can simply rest in being and being kind to you without getting lost in an elaborate thought construction about this sorrow." Sorrow arises. It's natural. There's no harm. Just be present with the sorrow, with love and kindness. That's the most wholesome response to the moment. And then remembering that you're meditating on the breath. And say to the sorrow, "Come breathe with me." And bring your full attention to the in-breath and the nurturing of the world. And then your full attention to the out-breath as you return the gift to the world by providing sustenance, which is your out-breath. How generous of you. How kind of you. Oh my goodness, you're being kind with every out-breath. Rest in that kindness. Practice in that kindness. Let's practice that kindness right now.